In the next set of homework problems, we're going to optimize our financial model. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a template tab, which is going to make it really easy for us to reuse any components that we designed just once by duplicating this tab. In this template tab, I want to show my company name over here, the tab name right below it. Then I want to break out the annual and quarterly sections. And I want to showcase how we could sum those values for items on our profit and loss, and then take the index of those values for values in our balance sheet. I also want to create some styling for headers and subheaders. And then lastly, I want to also be able to showcase actual versus projection depending on where exactly we are if we were to import actuals, i.e., what is our latest month of actuals? Anything prior to or equal to that date would say actual, and any projection would say projection. Do you think you can do it? Go ahead and pause this video and meet me back here when you're ready to go over the solution. Okay, so to get started, I am just going to create a new tab by hitting that little plus button. I'm going to right click and call this template. And then I am going to select this information over here. And let's just paste this as such. I'm just going to make a bunch of changes. Let's make this a lot bigger. And I'll hit Alt-WVG in order to get rid of the grid lines. Okay, so I want to have this information for my header row. So let's just call this header. And I am going to make both of these smaller as such. And I could ungroup that. Okay. Now I'm going to come back to the summary financials, and now I want to take a subheader row like that. And let's just undo. And I am also going to make this thinner. And now I have the subheader. Now for these actual values, I'm just going to make them all 0. And let's just put a little bit of a buffer as such. Okay, now I want to include certain information in cells A1 and A2. So in cell A1, I want to refer to my company name. And instead of just entering in my company name as such, I'd love to actually make this a named range so that any other time that I want to reference it, I could just reference that named range. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to click on Name Manager, and I'm going to click on New, and I'm going to call this company_name. And that is going to refer to your CFO guy. And then I'll hit Enter. And it doesn't seem like I need these quotations because it already adds it. So I'm just going to remove those and I'll hit close. Oops, I do want to save those. Okay, so now if I hit equals company, I could just hit tab and hit enter. And as you can see, your CFO guy appears. Now I'm going to want to get the actual template name, or rather the tab name that's shown over here. And there's a way that I could actually do this dynamically so that anytime that I save this information or create a new tab and rename it, I'll be able to get that. And for that, I'm going to utilize the cell function. So I'm going to write equals cell. I'm going to open, and now I want to get the full file name. So I'll just hit down and then a tab. And for reference, I could put A1, but I don't really need that. It's just for the entire name of the file. So if I hit enter, you can see that this is now the information that populates, which is the entire file path that I have. So now in order to get the actual tab name, which is at the very end, it looks like if I just search for this closed bracket and then return any of the text after that closed bracket, I'll be able to pull that in. So for that, I'm going to use a function called the mid function. So I'm just going to write equals mid over here. Now the text is going to be this as such. And let's just see what happens if I enter in 10 for the start number and 10 for the number of characters. Let's see what happens. Okay, so what this did was it counted 10 over here. So it started with O, which is the 10th character. And then it counted 10 characters further. So let's see if I can now replace this information with something a little bit more dynamic. So for that, I'm going to utilize the find function. So if I hit equals find, I find the text here. This is the actual, oops, I actually made a mistake. What the text that I want to find is this over here, this closed bracket. So I'm just going to hit close bracket as such within the text over here. Now I'm going to close that. And if I just paste it over here, you'll see that it's actually character number 170. So if I start with over here, the start number, if we make that 170, you'll see that if I count for 10 characters after that, I get this close bracket and then the 10 characters after. So let's change this. So let's copy this over here, this find, and let's make it a little bit more dynamic. We're going to say mid, and instead of 170, I'm going to put this over here plus 1. Okay, so now we have the information. The only problem is I don't really know how long this actual length is going to be. I just got lucky when I hit 10 that it turns out to be that was our actual template name. So to wrap this up, I'm going to utilize one more function, and that is the mid function. Now watch what happens. If I just type in mid, it says over here that it returns the characters from the middle of a text string given a starting position and length. So the actual text is going to be this information over here. The start number is again going to be the find. It's actually going to be the closed bracket in this text over here plus 1. Okay. Just going to remove that last parentheses. The last argument is going to be the number of characters. And that is just going to be the length of this entire file as such. So I'm going to write len in this. All right, let's see now what happens if I close this parentheses and hit enter. And it looks like I have a bit of a typo. And that's just because I forgot to put a final parentheses over here. Okay, and there we go. We got template to show. So instead of me referring now to A2, I'm just going to take this information. And again, we're going to use the mid function. The text is going to be the actual file name. Starting point is going to be wherever this bracket shows plus 1. And then the number of characters is going to be the actual length of the full file name. And I'll hit enter. Okay, looks like this works. So I could just paste this over here. And it looks like I just have to enter in this one more time and hit enter. Okay, now I could cut, paste, and everything populates as such. Okay, now I want to do two more things. I want to set a last month of actuals. Now, so far, everything we've been doing has been a projections only forecast, which we're going to change in just a bit. So why don't I just enter in 12/31/2024. And when I enter that in and I hit the home button, you'll notice that this automatically defaults to date. I can change this instead to a number, and now I have 45657. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit on formulas and create a new named range. And that is going to be called latest month of actuals. And that is going to be equal to that number that we just put over here as such. So now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say equals if this is less than or equal to latest month of actuals, then I want the word actual. Otherwise, I want the word projection. Let's go ahead and close that out. Okay, so these are all going to be projections. And let's just reduce the actual size. So I'm first going to just set it to this font here. And if I reduce the size, maybe I could reduce it to like a 6. This looks a little bit better as such. So as a refresher, if I just change this to, let's say 6/30/2024, you'll see that my information then will update between actuals and projections. Okay, the last thing that I want to do is I want to allow ourselves to update the dates for annual and quarterly summaries. So for that, I am going to make a few changes to my dates. Let me just add a few rows over here. And I want this to be the actual start of the period, then the end of the period as such. So I guess this will then be the quarter that we'll put in this cell here. So to get the start of the period, this is going to be my first one that I'm just going to hard code, and it's going to be 1/1/2025. To get the end of the period, I'll hit EO month, I'll point to this, and then I'll say 0. And let's just copy over the formatting as such. Okay, now to get the quarter of this, if you think about it, how can we dynamically get the actual quarter here? Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit equals. I'm gonna wrap this in a quotations for the word Q. And then to actually get the quarter number, I'm gonna say round up, and the number is going to be the month of what's above divided by 3. And I'm going to round it to 0 decimal places. And it looks like I have a mistake because I just need to put an ampersand over here. There you go, Q1. Let's just center this. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make this next period, this +1, and this as such. And this is just going to equal to that as such. Okay, so I can now take this information, copy it all the way. And now we have all the information populated for these dates. Now, I don't need to see this part here, so I am just going to group that information by clicking on Data and then Group. And I'm a fan of changing the styling. Instead of it being below the detail, I want it to be above. So I'm gonna hit that, and we're also gonna do the same thing for the right and left. We're just gonna flip it by unchecking that, and again, I just click that button here. Okay, making good progress. Now we just need to add our annual section and our quarterly section. So I'm going to hit plus, and for the annual section, I'm just gonna copy this here. Let's extend the column. This is going to be the end of the month multiplied by 12. Actually, it's going to be only 11. And instead of December 2025, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control 1, and I'm just going to say YYYY for 2025 as such. Okay, so now we have the year section. Let's just do the same thing now for the quarter. We want 4 quarters, so let me just add in 3 more columns as such. Okay, now for the quarters, I'm going to select the end of the month times 2. This will refer to the last period plus 1. And then I am going to drag this one forward to the right. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just for the display row over here, I'm going to say equals Q1 and space year of this over here. There we go. Okay, let's just copy and paste the styling here as well. Excellent. All right, now we have our year, quarters, and dates. Now the last thing that I want to do is I want to create a formula that makes it very easy in order to pull the information to pull in the monthly values for any period here. And I want to do that for my income statement, which is going to be a sum ifs. I want to sum the values. But for my balance sheet, I only want to take an index of that value. For example, I only want to show, let's say, my cash balance as of 12/31/2025, rather than summing up the information over here. So I'm just going to write over here sum, and then this is going to say index, and let's just copy over the styling here. All right, so to get the sum of the information, let's just paste this here. I'm going to use a sum ifs. So remember, I want to sum the values if it is in 2025. So I can say sum ifs, and I'm going to lock the columns. And the criteria range is if this period over here is greater than or equal to this period as such, and then this period is less than or equal to this period as such. And for some reason, our values are not populating. So I'm gonna hit Alt-HVR and that will update it. Okay, so let's just see. If I change this to, let's say 500, you'll see that my information updates. Perfect. Okay, so for the index, it's actually really simple. Remember, I just need to take the value as of this date. So I'm gonna say equals index. I'm gonna take all this information here and lock the columns. And then for the row number, I don't really care about the row number, so I'm gonna say 0, but for the column number, I need to match this date in this period here. So if I just enter in 500 here, nothing will populate. If I enter in 750 here, now it does populate. So it seems like this is working. Let's see if I just take this information here and copy it. Looks like I just need to drag this forward as such. And now it looks like everything is populating. So let's just touch this up a little bit. I'm gonna group this Alt-A-G as such. And we could also group Alt-A-G, this section here, and this section here, if need be. Okay, so now I have a really easy to use template. I could also delete this as such, which will allow me anytime I want to create a new tab in my financial model to reuse all of this information here. Nicely done.